Welcome to a live edition of Frankly Speaking Sports. My name is Larry Frank, and I'm so very glad to have you with us today. You know, we're just coming online right now, and we're talking about doing some of these live shows, and we're going to give it a couple of minutes here to go ahead and allow some of our folks to go ahead and come on the show. So as we do that, we're going to pause for a couple of minutes, give all of our stations a chance to come on as we go ahead and do this live show today for you. I want to go ahead and remind everybody that today's show is going to include Brandon Kravitz. Brandon Kravitz is the host and program director on FM 96.9 out of Orlando. So he will be joining us today as well to go live and talk about the NBA and different things that are going on in the NBA, about how they're going to come back to play, how the city of Orlando is going to handle everything that is going on. So, lots and lots and lots of things that we could talk about today on this show. I want to remind you, today's show is live. It is live. So anybody that is listening, we ask for you to go ahead and participate. Enjoy the show. If you have any comments, concerns, thoughts you want to talk about, please go ahead and leave a message right here. You can go ahead and leave a message right here, and we will go ahead, answer the question. Just let us know what state and city you're from. We'll obviously have your name, and we will go ahead and we will discuss everything we can based on the amount of time that we have. Want to remind you, Brandon Kravitz, who is the host and program director of 96.9 The Game out of Orlando, Florida, will be joining us today so he can go ahead and discuss the NBA and their return in Orlando, actually, at the end of July. So we got lots and lots to go ahead and talk with him about. We're giving it a couple minutes to go ahead and allow our networks to go ahead and come on. So we are just on a couple of minutes earlier here to go ahead and talk in regards to the NBA, certain things that have been going on this week in the world of sports and inside the entire world. So we want you to go ahead, stay tuned for our show. It should be a terrific show. We ask that you interact, talk to us in regards to anything you want to talk about. We're going to be talking about the Drew Brees situation. We're going to be talking about the NHL, the NBA, different topics in regards to what's going on in the world of sports. And we're just about on. I think we're waiting for one more of our networks to come on and talk to get connected with us. So please give it a couple of moments and we will go ahead and have that. I want to remind you that if you are tuning in, that you can go ahead and give us a phone call and get online. So we do have that option tonight as well. So a real interactive show tonight for you. We want to get as many people on the show as possible in the time frame that we do have. So for those of you people just joining us right now, we are going to be doing a live show for you tonight. We're just giving it a couple of minutes for the entire networks to get on. I believe we're just waiting for our YouTube channel now. As we go ahead and go live today with this special edition of Frankly Speaking Sports. And there's lots and lots and lots of discussion going on about what happened this week. We started on Monday and we talked on Monday about the injustice that was going on in the world involving George Floyd. And then on Tuesday, it was the topic of Danny Pearman of the Clemson Tigers assistant coach, where he made derogatory remarks. And we talked about that on Tuesday. And then Wednesday, it just kept getting worse and worse as the comments of Drew Brees. And we're going to start the show off in a few seconds. And we're going to start off about the Drew Brees topic before we go ahead and get on with Brandon Kravitz to discuss the NBA and their return. Want to remind everybody, if you'd like to participate, just go ahead, leave a message. It'll give you a name right under the comment sections here. If you go ahead and do that, it'll leave a message for us. We will try to answer your question as best as we can. So please go ahead and do that. Also want to remind everybody that you can give us a phone call at 479-553-7008. So anybody that wants to come on the show, you can go ahead and do so. And, we started the Monday off at the beginning of the week. Obviously, lots and lots of protests going on in the world in general about George Floyd. And we talked about the injustice that it has had on the entire world and how justice needs to be done. Then on our Tuesday show, we went ahead and we started talking about Danny Pearman. Danny Pearman, if you're not sure who Danny was, Danny is the assistant coach of the Clemson Tigers. And he made the derogatory remarks or used a derogatory word when it came to having an issue with a player on the field. And from all different perspectives of what went on between the player and the coach. It was about the coach trying to correct the player. And unfortunately, things got, heated, and he did go ahead and repeat that word, although he was trying to correct the player. So that was Tuesday's show. Then on Wednesday, just the unfortunate and insensitive comments by Drew Brees of the New Orleans Saints in regards to the national anthem at just a very, very insensitive time. So we're going to be getting into that as well. And we're just about ready to start our show. Want to remind you all that if you are just joining us, we are live on a couple of different platforms tonight. So please feel free, if you are on, to let us know that you are on. Say hello. We'll say hello back. And we'll go ahead and answer any questions you may have. But on Wednesday, the Drew Brees thing happened. The comments were made. And basically, I think everybody is familiar now with what went on with Drew Brees. But he came out and he made these comments in regards to, I cannot agree with anyone that kneels during the national anthem. And I'll tell you what, all the flack and all the comments that were put on social media about the remarks of Drew Brees it was an outcry of people just furiated with those comments that were made by Drew Brees. And, when you break it down and, as a sports show host, as whether you're a director of a sports show host, whether you're in the media, you try to break these things down and you try to see both sides of the story. And when you look at this story, the way it was taken, and some people are actually saying that it was taken out of context. I know Charles Barkley today came out saying, that people are overreacting and really putting a lot more emphasis on the remarks of Drew Brees than is necessary. And basically he said, I cannot agree with anyone that kneels for the national anthem. Well, the way this was taken by a lot of people, about a lot of teammates, about a lot of peers from Drew Brees' friends, was that you can't agree with anyone's message because they're kneeling for the national anthem. And, at the time with everything going on, very insensitive remarks, and a lot of people took that as Drew Brees was not getting the message. And he definitely did miss the message here. And then there's other people who are saying, well, Drew Brees didn't mean the remarks as if he doesn't respect or can agree with the people. It was that he didn't agree with the kneeling for the national anthem. And at a time where everything is going on and we're having protests all over the United States of America, all over the world, just insensitive comments, terrible timing. But let's also remember, it's very easy to throw everything at Drew Brees, but the NFL messed up. And I mentioned that the NFL messed up. And I was talking, I believe it was yesterday, to one of the great program directors from another city. We were talking, we were chatting on Twitter. And I said, a lot of this was media driven. And he mentioned, as far as the Drew Brees comments go, well, Drew Brees' comments were not media driven, whether you took them out of context or not. And I'm not here to justify what Drew meant. I don't know if Drew meant that he didn't respect them kneeling or he didn't respect the message they had to say because they were kneeling. Although we know what a lot of people have thought. But I disagree with this program director from another state, another city, because it was media driven. The media had a chance to make a difference. The NFL had a chance to make a difference, and they both failed. They both failed. And that's nothing against the media, but, back in 2000, I believe it was 2016, when Colin Kaepernick and some other players were kneeling, everybody missed the message. Or let me just say, I don't like to use everybody, but so many people missed the message that Colin Kaepernick was trying to communicate. Here's a guy who was kneeling to try to get the message across about racism, and rather than anyone listening to the message that he was trying to present, what did we do? Well, instead, we decided to go ahead and meteorize and go ahead and film the kneeling of the national anthem rather than go ahead and explain why he was kneeling. And in return, what happened is, nobody understood the message. Nobody understood the message. Instead, they pretty much said, they wanted nothing to do with Colin Kaepernick. All this stuff, all this bad stuff. And now, I'm sorry to say it, whether you believe me or not, the reason he is not playing football right now is because nobody understood the message he was trying to present at that time. That's why he's not playing football. It has nothing to do with whether he is good enough or he is not good enough. Everybody knows that he is good enough to be a quarterback in the NFL, but when everybody had the chance to go ahead and support this guy and try to understand what was going on, they didn't. They did not. And, it's just a sad situation that it took something like this for this world to understand what was going on. It should not have took something like this. They should have been listening. And I say the media, and my friend says, well, and it's okay. I want to make sure everybody listening to this show, viewing this show tonight, understands it is okay to disagree. We don't have to agree on everything, but please leave your comments here. Go ahead, let's discuss them. Let's open up the platform and go ahead and interact during this show so we can go ahead and bring up these topics. That's what makes great audio. That's what makes great radio. So let's go ahead and do that. And as far as, Drew Brees came out with this apology, it wasn't a voice apology. I think it was a written apology saying he was sorry. He did not realize he offended so many people. And then, you had several of his teammates come out and they were talking about how, insensitive he was. And they never expected Drew Brees to make these type of comments. But, things happen. It happened. We can sit here and debate whether, Drew Brees meant this or Drew Brees meant that, but the words were spoken. And whether he meant one thing or he meant another, isn't the point here. The point was the same message that the NFL missed several years ago is the same message that Drew Brees was missing right now. And, it's just too bad because, everything I've heard about Drew Brees in the past has been positive. He's been a classy guy from everything. You don't hear a lot of complaining when it came to Drew Brees as a teammate. But unfortunately, here was a situation that came up, and it was definitely, and I want to make sure people understand this, definitely wrong, definitely insensitive. Now, as far as the Danny Pearman situation, the assistant coach with Clemson, if you listen to all the information as it comes down, he was trying to correct a player. He was trying to correct a player, a black player, who was using the N-word. And in trying to correct him and making it understand that that word was not acceptable, he reused the word. And here is a case of somebody that is actually witnessing an injustice, sees that injustice, goes ahead and does something about it to correct it, unfortunately repeats the word, trying to make an example of the word that should not be used, and he gets penalized for it. Oh, people are asking for him to be penalized for it. In this situation, number one, if he was correcting a player, we should be sensitive to what he was trying to do. Whether we believe he was right or wrong, which and I said this Tuesday on my podcast, there is no place in society for that word. I don't care if you're white. I don't care if you're black. At the end of the day, there is no need for that word in the English language or in any language. But we have to take a stand together. And I talked about this all throughout the week as how the only way we're going to be able to conquer racism in the United States of America and in the entire world is obviously going to be is if we unify as one group and we work together. There is no difference. I've said this many, many times. There is no difference between a white person and a black person. We are all made the same way. The only difference is the color of our skin. If you look past that, everything about us is the same. And it's about time we realize that. We're in the year 2020. But going back to this particular situation, and I mentioned this on Tuesday's show, is here's a situation with a coach who was trying to help, who was trying to say, do not use this word on our football field, and it backfired on him. And, we want people to help. We want people to get involved. We want people to stop racism. In this situation, we have to look at the situation for what it is. And in this case, that individual was trying to help stop racism. He was not encouraging racism. He was there to alleviate it and end it altogether. And in doing so, he used the incorrect words. Now, a little bit later on in the show, I mentioned we're going to have Brandon Kravitz joining us. Brandon Kravitz is the host and program director on 96.9 The Game, and he is also the Orlando Magic radio host. If you have not heard, the NBA is going to be back in action. And once again, if you're joining us on this live edition of Frankly Speaking Sports, say hello. Let us know you're there. I want to go ahead and say hello back to you, but we also want you to interact with us. If you have any questions, concerns, thoughts about any of the topics we're discussing tonight, go ahead, leave a message right in the comment section, or you can give us a call and you can get on the show live at 479-553-7008. What'll happen is the phone will ring. You'll hear us talking on the show. Please mute your phone until we get to you. And once we get to you, we'll put you on and we'll answer any questions that you may have. Once again, to go live with us on the air, it's 479-553-7008. We're going to have in a couple moments Brandon Kravitz joining us. And we're going to go to a quick commercial break so that our local affiliates could go ahead and identify themselves. And when we come back, Brandon Kravitz, the radio host and program director of 96.9 The Game and the Orlando Magic radio host, will be joining us live. My pleasure and honor to have on our Frankly Speak Sports hotline Brandon Kravitz, who is the Orlando Magic radio host and is also the program director and host of In the Zone's Sunshine State on FM 96.9. Brandon, how you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thanks for the introduction. Very kind.
Oh, you're welcome. Hey, a big day yesterday. What better day to have you on than the day after the NBA announces that their return to action is going to be at the end of July. How great was it hearing that news yesterday?
Well, I thought it was a huge relief, honestly. I mean, it was... Really, I think we almost take it for granted because this has been a conversation and a plan that's been building for the last month plus. But yesterday really is sort of a day of celebration. We were never guaranteed to get an NBA season back. And the fact that we're not only getting it, but for us here in Central Florida, that we're getting it in our backyard. And even if you can't go and attend the game, the NBA champion is going to be crowned in our backyard, and that's something that will be a part of NBA history forever. It's something that our town should take pride in, and certainly, hopefully, the Magic can do well, but, they'll likely run into a buzzsaw in the first round. Either way, we're just happy to have it back, and, it is great news. We shouldn't overlook that.
Now, you talked about Orlando, and I'm glad you did, because it raises the next question, Obviously, it looks like, as of now anyway, the plan is no fans in the stands. But still, a city like Orlando, which has been impacted, not that everyone hasn't been impacted by this COVID-19, but, with all the tourists, with Disney being closed, what a great impact for this city.
Yeah, no, it's huge, and there are so many different little entities and businesses that this helps. It goes well beyond just basketball or sports fans. When you're talking about service industry people, which so many of our citizens in Orlando are in the service industry, the fact that even a portion of them can go back to work now to service the NBA players, teams, and trainers and coaches that are going to be there on the complex, that's great news. It's going to help with catering and all of these different businesses, those that are in housekeeping. What have you been maintaining for the last couple of months? There are so many different little aspects to this that are helpful for our economy and can just get people back to work, which is something that we all want to do at this point if you don't have the opportunity to do it already.
Now, one of the great things now is, for the last couple of months, as a radio host, it's had to be real difficult on you from a topic of discussion every day for the last 2 months. What do I talk about? What do I talk about? What do I talk about? And not only that, you're also in a city that basically has, you have two sports. You have soccer and you have basketball. So what kind of effect has the last 2 months had on you?
Oh, how much time you got? It's a great question, and honestly, it's something that it's taken a lot of soul searching. I think it tested the boundaries of creativity, and it hasn't been honestly as bad as I feared it would be. I think if you have a passion for this job and you just like speaking to an audience, you'll find something to talk about. The fact that there are people out there that still choose to turn on sports talk radio, our numbers, to be quite frank with you, yes, they've gone down. Typically that happens after football season anyway, so it's not a huge surprise. And with sports shut down, also not a big surprise, but it has not been nearly as drastic as you would imagine. And that tells me that people are still listening. The fact that people still want to hear what we have to say, what I have to say is, I mean, I don't take that for granted. So I'm not going to wake up in the morning and feel bad for myself. If you're turning on my radio show, then I'm going to give you some bit of entertainment. I have taken the stance of I am not going to dwell, and we're kind of past this now, but that first month, it seemed like anytime you turned on sports talk radio, and certainly for our radio station at 96.9 in Orlando, every time you turned on our station, it was a conversation about coronavirus. Sports are shut down. When can we come back? What are we going to do to come back? What's the plan? Who said this? Who said that? Is anybody sick? And it was almost depressing. And I made it a point for myself to say, this isn't why people are coming here. This isn't why people are turning us on. They're trying to get away from it. If you want coronavirus updates, turn on the news. You're not getting that from a sports station in Orlando. So I made it a mission for myself to come up with as much content as I possibly could, things that I want to talk about, that I'm interested in, that we can have fun with. And, you know, whether it's rankings or lists or creating brackets and tournaments of different things that, you know, sports fandom doesn't die just because sports fans have nothing to watch. And that's one of the things that I learned throughout all of this, is that just because something's not on, that doesn't mean that you don't get to flip the switch of sports fandom. If you're a real sports fan, that never goes away. And I'd like to give a special nod and a thank you to Michael Jordan in The Last Dance, because that provided a ton of content for us.
Yes, it did. We are talking to Brandon Kravitz. He's the host and program director on FM 96.9 out of Orlando. He's also the Orlando Magic radio host. You know, and it just shows you from what you just said is, you know, how much, and it doesn't matter where you're from, what city you're from, what state you're from, how much this society is missing sports.
Yes, absolutely, and we're seeing it now. I mean, there are issues far larger than who's going to be crowned the NBA champion or who wins the Stanley Cup playoffs that are at play here. But sports are such a unifier for our country and for our communities, and I think sometimes we can take that for granted, and it's easy to, because sports never stops. Not until now. This is the first time in my lifetime. It's probably the first time in your lifetime that sports have just stopped on a dime. I mean, even in World War II, which is well before my time, there were still replacements, and there were things that kind of got you by if you still needed that sort of outlet of distraction. That doesn't exist right now. I mean, it doesn't matter. We have so much that we can yell at each other about, whether it's race, religion, politics. I mean, the people on the left and the right that just can't agree on anything. But if you're a Magic fan, or if you're a Yankee fan, or whoever, Laker fan, you can agree on that. That'll bring you together, and all of a sudden those two people that were divided like no end, arguing on Facebook left and right all day, wasting their time, are clapping and cheering sitting next to each other. Like that's powerful, and I don't think that we give enough credit to that. So even for non-sports fans, they go, I don't really watch that anyway. Look at what it does to your community if you have something that people can rally around, and that's what we need back more than anything.
Yeah, absolutely. Now let me ask you this. You're in a market where we just talked about a few minutes ago, where you only have the Orlando Magic. I know you have the soccer team as well. As a sports show host, or even a program director, how much more difficult is a city that doesn't have an NHL team, doesn't have a Major League Baseball team, doesn't have an NFL team? I mean, you have UCF, I'm sure, which is your big college team over there, but how much more difficult is it to go ahead and be a sports show host?
Well, you know, it's a good question. I think, yeah, and you definitely can't undersell the importance of UCF for us in Orlando. And I have seen the rise. I went to UCF and graduated 10 years ago. And UCF football and athletics were not nearly as popular then. And 10 years, it really isn't that long, not nearly as popular as they are now. That 2017 season where they went undefeated with Mackenzie Milton at quarterback, that did wonders for us. And that's something that, again, it kind of got that Central Florida pride and having a team that people wanted to hear you talk about. You need that in a community. You have to have those. The Magic finally starting to turn the corner, which helps. But I think that we're in a unique spot in Central Florida. I don't know what other markets go through that only have one or two pro teams that really are a big deal the same way that we do. We are such a melting pot in Central Florida. I've been trying to put my finger on the pulse of what people in this town want to hear about for years. And one thing that I constantly get back is everything. I mean, we're as much a national sports talk entity as anything else. I think that we can also go statewide really well, where other markets won't be able to do that. If you're in Miami, nobody in Miami cares about Magic basketball. But people in Orlando care about Heat basketball. If you're in Miami, you can't spend 2 segments on Florida State football. If you're in Orlando, you can. And so that's where we get by, and that's where, with your intro, one of the things that I came up with as the program director for us to capitalize on, how can we generate more interest and more talking points, is the Sunshine State show. We are on from 5 to 6 in the afternoon. I've splintered off an hour of my afternoon show where we cover the entire state, and we've had other sports stations in the iHeart family around the state actually pick up this show, and we can cater to all these different markets at once, emanating from Central Florida, where we have good perspective on everything that's going on around the state because people tend to converge here. So it's a complex answer, and it's something that your question is something that I battle with and try and come up with solutions to every single day. And I love the market that we're in because you get to be sort of creative and you get to splinter off and go left, right, and center. I mean, think about it. If you're in Boston, you're talking about like 4 things. That's it. And those things are big, and those sports stations are doing very well. Don't get me wrong. But at the end of the day, you might end your week going, I don't know if I can talk about the Red Sox and the Patriots again. We don't have that problem because we're all over the place.
We are talking to Brandon Kravitz. He's the host and program director at FM 96.9, The Game out of Orlando, and he's also the radio host of the Orlando Magic. Brandon, I want to talk some NBA here too, and you mentioned about Orlando being the central point, and I think it brings a great thing up. First of all, we'll talk about the format in a minute that the NBA is going to use, but in a situation like we're going in this nation right now with the COVID-19 and, the unfortunate injustice that was done with George Floyd and the protests, the NBA now is the first team, besides NASCAR, coming back. And you got, baseball is out there tarnishing its image by bickering over pennies on the dollars. The NFL doesn't start. How much now, and I want to say this the right way, the NBA, the Orlando Magic in general, they're centrally located. Tampa's not going to have baseball right now because they're bickering. You get all, Miami, but these other cities in Florida, how many more fans are actually going to become Magic fans when the NBA finally starts back up because they just want to watch some live sports?
I think that we'd be better off if the Heat weren't as good as they are. Because if you're in the state, but you're not in Central Florida and you're looking for somebody to cheer on, I hate saying this, but the Miami Heat have a better shot of moving on and kind of going through the playoffs with the roster that they have. They're just better suited for it right now than the Magic are, so they might actually be able to build up a little bit more steam. I do think that there's something to that, but it's all going to come back to success. They're going back to play. They're going to play a maximum of 8 games to finish out the regular season at that complex at Disney. And then after that, it's the playoffs. Well, if they get swept out by the Bucks, I don't know that you have enough time to gain that momentum and pick up new fans around the state that are starved for something to watch. But if you can shock the world, then everything that you said is 100% true. If you can even win a few games against, push the Bucks to a game 7, something like that, or get the hell away from the Bucks and move up to the 7 seed if they can usurp the Nets and then play the Raptors, you've got a much better chance of winning that series. That would help out a lot.
Now, what do you think of this format? It's a 16-day regular season, 5 to 6 games per day. This is what they're expected to do when they come back. Each team expected to play one back-to-back among the 8 regular season games. Then the NBA final format expected to include games every other day during a best-of-7 series. That's a lot of games quickly, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a lot of games quickly, and they're talking about starting next season on December 1st.
Right.
Which means a couple of these teams are going to have a month and a half to get ready for the next season. And then also remember, as we kind of get ahead of ourselves, that next August is the Olympics that were supposed to take place this year. And a lot of the players in the league internationally are going to be taking part in that. So these guys are never going to stop playing basketball, essentially. I think that the whole process I'm fine with, because I'll just take basketball any way you give it to me at this point. I think it's a little bit confusing, and I wish that they would have made it a little bit more simplistic to understand for fans. And I'm not saying this as like, oh, I understand it, but fans don't. I'm confused. I shouldn't be confused. And that's where I think that they could have done a better job just kind of simplifying the whole process. The single, double elimination at the end of all of this, it could be fun. I just wish that I understood it better so that I could better explain it to an audience.
No, I agree with that 100%. Now, let me ask you this. From an access standpoint, you're with the media. Have they let you know? I know it's just, everything has just come down, but have they let you know the amount of access you as a radio host and the pregame and postgame show? I mean, have they let you know how much access you're going to be able to have?
Yeah, we've had those conversations. I think that they are fluid, so don't hold me to it. It could change. I mean, honestly, it could. I have a phone call later today with a representative from the Magic that might give me some new information that's different from the last time that we spoke. But as of right now, from what I understand, people like myself that and even for the play-by-play voice, the color analysts, we're all going to be in a separate location watching the game on a monitor and then handling the broadcast the same way that we would. We're just not going to be there amongst the players. That's the way that I understand it. I would assume that if you're a reporter and you're writing articles or blogs online, that they're going to have like 1 or 2 the guys that cover the entire league, almost like an Associated Press style, and then shoot those stories out and everybody can share them. I'm thinking that's probably the way it's going to work. They're trying to limit it to as many bodies as they can. So if you don't need to be there, you're not invited to go. That's essentially how I understand it.
Let me ask you this, Brandon, and you might snicker when I ask you this, but for play-by-play announcers, broadcasters of all sports, could this be the new way to go?
I hope not. I think it's completely different, a completely different feel. I don't think it feels as authentic. I've seen we carry Orlando City games, our MLS team, and when they started out, the budget was a little bit tight, and those play-by-play guys, they didn't travel with the team. If Orlando City was playing Colorado, they're not flying to Colorado. They're doing exactly what we said we're going to do with these NBA games. Now, we're doing it for safety reasons, but they had to do it for budgetary reasons. And it's just, it's fine. You can do it, and you get the content that you need if you're a listener and a fan of the team, but it does not feel the same. So I really hope we don't go down that road. I think it would be detrimental. I mean, I host the pregame and the postgame. I could certainly do that from a studio. I think that for the play-by-play guy, completely different feel if you're not there. And I'm also the sideline reporter at home games. I don't know how I'm going to. I couldn't report on anything if I'm not in the building. So I get the chance. I'm privy to the discussions that go on during timeouts. Those would be null and void if we if we started doing all of these on location.
We're talking to Brandon Kravitz from 96.9 FM, the game out of Orlando, and he's also the Orlando Magic radio host. As we wrap this up, Brandon, you talked about the Magic. I mean, obviously, there was a little disappointment in your voice when you were thinking about how far they could go when the season resumes. What is your outlook for this team when play does resume?
Well, I think they're going to play really well. This is a cohesive unit. They like each other. They're really well coached. Steve Clifford is one of the most respected NBA coaches in the league. So I think they're going to be good. I think one of the benefits, and then one of the things that I'm sort of toying with, is this idea of the three ball has taken over the league. And the Magic are much better when they start passing the ball into the block, and they sort of play this almost this 90s style. They do shoot the three, but they're not great at it. The three ball is so infectious with the crowd noise and the momentum that it causes. It's just crushing to the opponent when a team bombs 2 or 3 threes in a row, and a lot of that comes from crowd noise or silencing the crowd. I wonder what that's going to feel like if that same momentum carries, and if teams that live and die by shooting the three, if they don't gain that same level of momentum, are they not going to be as effective? If that's the case, I think the Magic have a really good chance to surprise some people, because if the three ball becomes less of a factor, it'll still be one, but if it's less of one, I think the Magic have a really good opportunity to do what they do well, which is play defense and get the ball down to Vooch where he can score those easy buckets down low. So, I like the Magic team. I think that they can play well. They just need to get away from playing Milwaukee in the first round, because I think the Bucks are the best team in the NBA.
Now, you mentioned crowd noise and stuff, and there's a lot of talk going on, and I know you can probably put some of this to rest because you get the information a lot quicker than a lot of us. But if you listen, certain states, another state, I don't know which it was yesterday, but I know it was Texas a couple of days ago, they're opening up arenas and stadiums for a certain percentage of capacity can now enter. For example, the Rangers and the Astros, should baseball come back, they right now would be allowed to sit 25 to 50% of capacity in those stadiums. Has there been, I'm under the impression the NBA is saying definitely no fans. Is there any speculation out there or talk about maybe putting some fans in the stands at a percentage of capacity?
I have heard absolutely nothing of the sort. I would be surprised, because Adam Silver has taken an extremely cautious approach in the way that he's handled all of this. So I would be surprised, but it will seem kind of goofy if you get into September and NFL games are being played and college football cranks up and you've got fans and Major League Baseball is allowing fans in and the NBA is still playing in an empty arena. The only difference would be all of those different venues, like a football stadium, a baseball stadium, they're open air, and if you allow 50% capacity, you can really separate the fans, and they'd be outside. You're not allowing more than, 1,000, 2,000 people at the most into these Disney complexes, if that. And it's a really closed space, so it would be hard to accommodate fans and to do that if there's any worry about the virus at all. I don't think it's going away to the point where they're going to feel comfortable doing that. So I wouldn't bank on it. And think of how exclusive that would be. If you got the NBA Finals cranked up and only 1,000 fans are allowed in, they would either have to charge astronomical prices, which will be terrible PR for them, or they can bring in people like military vets or members of like the Boys and Girls Clubs and different charities like that. If they did it that way, I think maybe you can make it work. But to charge, I don't see that happening.
All right, last question, Brandon. I'll put you on the spot. July 31st, the NBA starts. It ends in October. Who's the last team standing?
I am gonna stay consistent with what I've said throughout this conversation. I think it's the Milwaukee Bucks. Giannis is right now the most dominant player in the league. They can shoot the three well. They defend. There's nothing that they don't do well. Giannis is young enough and athletic enough to, I believe that he's probably stayed in shape and can get cranked up quicker than even like a LeBron James. So I'm going to go with the Bucks.
All righty, Brandon, we want to thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to speak with you today. We really, really did enjoy you taking time away from your busy schedule.
Take care out there.
All right, be safe, my friend. That was Brandon Kravitz. He's the host and program director at 96.9 The Game, and he is also the Orlando Magic radio host. We will be back right after this. Welcome back to Frankly Speaking Sports. I'm your host, Larry Frank, and what a great interview with Brandon Kravitz. Also want to welcome, I see we have quite a few people joining us now. I see my buddy Billy, Steve, and Henry, all frequent listeners, are right now on the platform listening to us live. Want to also let you all know that get involved, interact. This is a live show. This one is not pre-recorded like we do all the other ones early in the morning. So for Billy and Henry and Steve, who just came on during that interview, go ahead. If you have a question, a concern, a thought, something you'd like to ask us, right in the comment section here, you can go ahead, leave a comment, and ask your question. Just let us know what city and state you're from, and we'll go ahead and we'll answer your question. I know there's a lot of questions out there. A lot of people may have questions on the first part of our segment today, where we talked about the injustice that has been done, not just with the George Floyd situation, but in the entire NFL and sports in general. So, lots and lots of topics to talk about. We also have a phone line. If you want to give us a quick call, get on the air. All we do is ask you when you call, because we only have one line coming in at this time. You go ahead, you'll be on the air as soon as you call. So go ahead and mute your phone after you call while we're doing the show, and we'll go ahead and get to you at the next possible moment in our broadcast, and we'll talk to you live on the air. That phone number is 479-553-7008, and we want to talk a little bit about sports coming back. I did have actually a message on our text line, which that phone number I had gave out earlier, in regards to, Larry, is baseball ever going to come back? And it's a really good question. I don't know. Major League Baseball has done everything it can to tarnish their name. You look at the NBA is coming back, like Brandon Kravitz just talked about, later on in the month of July. They'll be practicing beginning of July, starting games on July 31st through October. So the NBA is back. There is an organization, the NBA, that has its stuff together, and they are leading the way. They were the first to shut down, and with the exception of NASCAR, they're going to be the first to come back. So great kudos, great leadership by Adam Silver of the NBA. Then you got the NHL, Gary Bettman doing a terrific job. They are entering phase 2 as of Monday. So now they're going to allow certain players and certain coaches at the facilities as far as phase 2 goes, and they're hoping to start play real soon. As soon as the authorities give the NHL the okay, they will be back in action playing some hockey. And then, of course, the NFL, which has had the most time here to really prepare for this thing, because their season doesn't start, as far as games go, till September. And the NFL, once again, is top-notch with Roger Goodell just leading the way. They opened up facilities to their coaches. So great job. But going back to baseball had a chance to shine. Baseball had every avenue available to say, we're going to lead this thing and lead people back, and as a country, help reunite this country as we go through these difficult times. We're going through the COVID-19 situation. We're going through the George Floyd situation. And what does baseball do? Instead of coming back, they're bickering about pennies on the dollars, billionaires and millionaires arguing over money. And let me explain to you, I'm not taking the owner's side in this. I try to look at both sides. I look at the owners, I look at the players, and the owners are just being foolish. Because it just shows you when it comes to Major League Baseball, the owners do not give a crap about anyone but themselves. They continue to prove that year in and year out, and they don't care what they have to do. They continue to be as greedy as possible until it tarnishes the name. And it's tarnishing it. And it's tarnishing it in a bad way right now. We need some distractions. We needed baseball. And baseball has failed us as a society because of their greed. And the players are not wrong in this case. And the owners like to put all the blame on the players. And I know it's vice versa, where the players like to put some blame also on the owners. But in this case, the owners don't care about the fans. They have said it. They are proving it by not coming back. They do not want to come back. They are afraid they're going to lose too much money, when at the end of the day, they're losing more money by not coming back. And, now you're seeing that some of these states, like the state of Texas, is allowing fans in the stands. They're going to allow a certain percentage of capacity, 25% to possibly, by the time baseball starts, if it ever starts, is going to be 50%. So it's just amazing. We want to go ahead and welcome Chris to the show. Chris, thanks for joining us. A reminder, if you have any questions, thoughts, concerns, anything you want us to speak about, whether it's hockey, basketball, baseball, go ahead and just leave a comment in the comment section, and we'll go ahead and get to your question. Or you can give us a phone call right here on our Frankly Speaking Sports hotline. Remember, when you call us, that we will have you right on the air. So we'll go ahead and mute your phone till we get to you. The phone number is 479-553-7008. And, baseball, once again, just every single thing they do it so they can continue to look bad. And, we mentioned it at a time where baseball was needed. They did not come through. They did not come through. Now they want the owners want the players to take more of a cut because they're not making money, or they're going to lose too much money. When they originally made a deal that the players' contracts will be prorated. So now what they're doing is they're saying, we'll only go to a smaller schedule so that by the time maybe we do start playing games, that maybe some fans will be allowed in the stands and we can make some of that revenue back. So just, if you're a baseball fan, and I've been a baseball fan all my life, and I played baseball, and it's just disgusting. There's no other word. You look how great the NHL, the NBA, NFL, NASCAR is doing, and you would think baseball would lead the pack. And out of all of them, the commissioner has the least leadership than any other commissioner in any other professional sports. And it just nauseates me to think that a game that the fans have given so much to can continue to constantly keep screwing the fans over. Want to remind you, we are on different platforms. We are on the YouTube channel. We have our own YouTube channel, Frankly Speaking Sports. Go ahead over to YouTube, subscribe. It is completely free. That's right. How many subscribe buttons do you know that are free? This one is free. We have all of our podcasts, any videos from the past that we did as far as interviews go are on that website. So go ahead, when you get a chance, go over to YouTube. Also, if you have a Twitter account, follow us on Twitter at Larry Frankus. That's with a U-S at the end. And we put a lot of different material on there. And then, of course, if you're currently, I know we're on different platforms this evening, such as Spotify and Breaker and Google. But if you're listening on Facebook right now and have friends, you can ask them to join us, or ask them to join our Facebook group page. All you have to do is ask to join. We'll approve you, and you'll be a member of this great Facebook group. And we put the latest updated news on that page. If you looked at it already today, you would have seen NBA information, NHL going to phase 2, which, a lot of people that I've spoke to are very, very happy. I want to welcome Francisco to our show. Francisco's been on before. We are live today. Also want to welcome my buddy Matt to the show. As I said, we are live. We want to answer your questions. We talked about a lot of difficult topics and things like that. If you want to, go ahead and leave a comment right now, asking a question. I know there's questions out there. We love to get as much participation as possible. We also have a phone line. Once again, if you call us that you want to get on the air, go ahead and mute your phone after we answer the phone, because you'll hear the show live as we continue to go on. And when we get a break, we'll get to the phone for you and put you on the air and ask whatever question or concern you may have. But if you're just joining us right now, news broke out of the NHL that they are entering phase 2 as of Monday. So the NHL is coming back. Basically, the NHL has to go through 4 phases. This is phase 2. 2 weeks from now, if everything goes okay, they will be entering phase 3. They're just basically waiting for the authorities to say you can go ahead and play hockey. So just a little bit more time, you'll see hockey back. The NBA, now the Players Association, has approved the plan, which was approved yesterday by the owners, to come back as of July 31st. There will be basketball, and all the basketball, for those of my friends listening from the Florida area, you get every team that is in this tournament. The 24 teams will be playing at Disney in Orlando. So great for the city of Orlando, who was really hurting when the tourist season got knocked out with COVID-19. So some great news there. We talked earlier in the show about Drew Brees, and I had another question just on the text line about it, so that individual named George must not have been here at the beginning of the show. But, we'll hit on this once again, only because I had this gentleman ask, and I don't want to be rude and not answer the question. But, the Drew Brees situation was unfortunate. The timing of those comments by Drew Brees, as we mentioned earlier in the show, were very insensitive. And you can take these comments 2 different ways. What Drew Brees said is, I cannot agree with anyone who kneels during the national anthem. And the way that comment was perceived, and rightly so, was that I don't care what your message is, I can't agree with you kneeling for the national anthem. Then you'll get those other individuals that would say, well, maybe people are looking at that wrong. Maybe he was trying to say, I just don't agree with people kneeling during the national anthem. But then again, once those comments were said, everything, the media and social media just got completely bombarded with different comments on different platforms from players that Drew actually plays for. And I think the timing was really wrong. A lot of that was the timing of those comments, with protests going on all over the United States and in the world about the injustice that has been being done over the past, I can't even tell you how many years, in regard to racism. And I think just the timing was wrong. And I've asked people, and, I have quite a few listeners on. Tell me what you think. Leave a comment. Was his comments taken out of context? Charles Barkley today said he understands how people could misconstrue those comments by Drew Brees, but he thinks that people are blowing it way out of proportion. Not that he agrees with the comments that was said. So just a lot going on this week. And then, we get baseball, which once again just screws everybody over. and continues to give themselves a bad name. So, we'll find out. It's getting to a point where people who are baseball fans like me we don't care anymore because they're so insensitive. And the NBA will be back in July, so we're going to have things to watch. The NFL is going on as planned. And if you didn't hear and you're listening right now on the Facebook Live or the YouTube Live and did not hear earlier our announcement, is that an Arkansas football player has tested positive for COVID-19. He has tested positive. He is being confined at this time, and he is not obviously allowed on campus. He will be quarantined for the next 14 days. And this is one of the situations we're going to have once sports comes back, as we welcome Michael to our show. Welcome, Michael. And I just want to let everybody know that this is going to happen. We knew this was going to happen eventually, that somebody was going to get infected with COVID-19. And once again, this is going to be how they handle these situations as they arise. And this gentleman is not on campus. He is actually one of the stars on the football team, but they have not identify and will not identify which player it is, which I think is a good thing. So that is going on here at the University of Arkansas. This Monday, facilities open up. If you're a college football fan, college football players and personnel are allowed on campus beginning this Monday. So a lot of things going on with college football getting back to normalcy as well. And if you listen to different people with college football is going to have a season. There is no doubt in my mind that college football will have a season. The question is how many fans are going to be allowed in the stadium. And they're talking about right now, a lot of these states, as we did mention earlier, and when we were talking to Brandon Kravitz, who's the host of the Orlando Magic and does his own show on 96.9, The Game out of Orlando, and we talked about, the capacity in these stadiums, and like the state of Texas, you have Texas A&M, Texas Tech, Houston. They're allowing right now, if games started today, let me put it in perspective for you. If the Houston Astros and the Texas Rangers were playing baseball today and Major League Baseball would stop their crap about bickering, they would allow 25% of that stadium to be filled up to capacity. For example, if you have 20,000 people that fit in a stadium, now both those stadiums sit more than that, but I'm using simple numbers, you would be able to have, I believe it would be 5,000 people in that stadium right now today. And as time goes on, you're going to see these capacities opening up more and more and more. It'll be over 50% probably by the time the NBA comes back, although they're playing in Orlando, so that's a whole nother story. I don't see fans being allowed there, but you're going to see football season with fans. The question is how many. There is too much money in college football to be lost without fans in the stands. And, as sad as it is to say, and we discussed this before, is when COVID-19 first came out, when Corona first came out, it was all about part of that, and rightfully so. Let's not be stupid about this. Rightfully so. But as time went on and we got more knowledge and more understanding of this terrible illness, it's become more a money game. There are a lot of athletic departments that are in jeopardy of losing their entire business. And when I say business, that's their entire athletic department. A college football team, especially a Power 5 college football team, brings in over 75% of the revenue made by a college athletic department. And it's not only, and I think it was Brandon who said earlier in the show when we had him on, that money just doesn't go towards athletics. I think a lot of people think all the revenue from the gates, all the revenue from the concessions, all the revenue from the parking, it all goes to the athletic department, but it goes to the university as a whole. It helps with books. It helps with education. It's just not about athletics, and the money being used is in the billions. How much money is being lost by these universities if they're not allowed to have fans in the stands. And let me ask you, like I said, please feel free to comment. We want interaction on these shows. We love to get interaction. We love to understand. It only takes a couple seconds to go ahead and type in a message. Let us know what you think. Do you feel comfortable going to a sporting event if they would allow you to go to a sporting event? Now, obviously, if you have an illness, something like a respiratory effect, or you're going through cancer treatments or something like that, obviously, due to health reasons, you're not going to feel comfortable going to a game. But I'm talking if you're 100% healthy as far as having no respiratory issues, asthma, or anything to that sort, are you comfortable going to a game? And I remember we did a poll question on Frankly Speaking Sports not too long ago in regards to that, and an overwhelming 75% said that they would go to a game if they were allowed to go. Now, I did not break down the age. I did not break down whether you were male or female. I didn't go into that type of, detail with it. But from an overall perspective, people want to get away again. People have been stuck in their houses, in their, living quarters, I should say, for a couple of months now, and they're finding out they don't like it at home. So, you're going to see some of these fans. So it will be very interesting to see what happens. We're going to go to a quick station break, and we'll be back right after this. You are listening to Frankly Speaking Sports Podcast on the Frankly Speaking Sports Network. Welcome back to Frankly Speaking Sports. I think we had a terrific show tonight. This is one of our shows that we decided to do live. We wanted interaction from the fans. We wanted to talk to different fans. We had lots of fans join us today. And, one of the reasons I started doing this show, obviously I get a lot of compliments and a lot of great remarks on the different guests like Brandon Kravitz, who we had on earlier today. And a lot of people listen for these interviews. And we've had some tremendous interviews over the past couple of weeks of people not just in one particular sport, but from baseball to the NFL, today NBA. We've been trying hard to get the NHL on, which we will have on next week. Some guests from the NHL talking about, when the NHL will be coming back. So we got some great things going. But the reason I did this show is I don't make money doing this show. Okay? A lot of people say, oh, this guy's great. He makes all this money. I do this for enjoyment. I do this because I want the interaction of the fans. And, it's important to me that everybody understands when you come on and listen to this show, we want you to interact with us. We're not here to agree on everything I say or everything that our guest says. One of my mottos has always been, if you've been listening to these shows, is we agree to disagree. And that's what makes sports talk and sports radio so great. And it really, really does. And that's why it's important for me when I tell you folks to go ahead and get involved, leave a quick message, ask a quick question. It's so that we can get you involved and start talking about topics that you want to talk about. One of the things over the past, we've been lucky. Over the past 3 months when a lot of different platforms, a lot of different radio shows have not had the opportunity and are suffering dearly because there's not a lot to talk about in the world of sports, they've been failing. Some of them have been closing down. I don't know, for those of you that follow The Athletic, which a lot of your writers today and a lot of your personnel with The Athletic went ahead and they laid off 46 people. They laid off 46 people. And that's a paper that charges a subscription for you to listen to them. So 46 people laid off today. And we just got breaking news today that Oklahoma State University basketball team. We want to welcome Harold and Donald to the show. Welcome to the show, guys. Thank you for joining us. But they've been put on, Oklahoma State, on a 1-year ban from postseason due to one of their coaches bribing players for money to come to their university. So some sad news, Oklahoma State, they're very lucky. I don't think they got a big enough penalty, but that is something that's happening. And if you're just joining us once again on our platform, please, if you have a question, you have a concern, you have a thought, there's a comment section right there. You're right in front of either your computer or your phone. Type in a question, type in a concern, and we'll talk about it. Like I was just saying, I love the interaction. I love answering questions. We had some tough topics today that we went over the week in review, and we went over the injustice that has been going on in this world with racism, which was our first topic that we discussed when we came on the air. We talked about Drew Brees' insensitive comments. We talked about the incident with the Clemson assistant coach and the football player that happened a couple of years ago. We talked about Colin Kaepernick and 3-4 years ago when he was kneeling with the national anthem. So a lot of great topics. We had Brandon Kravitz on. We talked about the NBA coming back. So please, we had a lot of stuff we talked about today. If you have a question, you can go ahead right now. We'll give you some time to leave a comment, leave a question. We'd love to go ahead and answer it. Also, if you want to ask us a question live on the air, you can call 479-553-7008. And when you come on and you call that number, you're going to be on the air. So please go ahead and as soon as we answer the phone, mute your phone till we go ahead and ask who's on the line. That way, when you will be live on the show, and we'll put you right on the show with your question. Once again, that number for those of you that want to give us a call on the Frankly Speaking Sports Hotline is 479-553-7008. And we had talked about before, we just got a bunch more people on. I want to welcome Vernon on the line as well. Well, hey, buddy, welcome to the show. We talked about the NBA coming back. Some great news out of the NBA. And, there's going to be 24 teams, 13 teams from the West, and there's going to be 9 teams from the East. And, I meant to ask Brandon that question, but I'm thinking that's because records, why they didn't go 11-11. It had to be something with the present records at the time the league shut down. So I would assume that's what that was. But that's starting in July. They're 3 weeks away from getting ready to go into camps. And every single game, every single playoff game, every single championship game will be played at Disney World in Orlando. So here's a city that was suffering. A lot of the tourists, in March, they shut everything down. Now they're going to get all their hotels within Disney packed with, they said, roughly 1,600 people. They're not going to allow family members there till the second round of the playoffs. But and I think part of the reason is they feel that after the first round, obviously some of those teams are going to be eliminated, so there'll be a lot less there'll be less teams there and less family there as well. So once again, Adam Silver leading the way to bringing sports back in our society. And I can't say enough about the NBA. Also want to let you know that we have some very special guests coming up next week. We have Mr. Dugar, Michael Sean Dugar, will be joining us this Monday. If you're not familiar with who he is, he writes for The Athletic and he covers the Seattle Seahawks. So once again, another great guest coming up this Monday. And, there's still lots and lots of topics that we do want to get to. We have a certain amount of time. We have about 10 to 15 minutes left in our program. Want to welcome Jack, good old friend Jack, to Frankly Speaking Sports. He's listening right now out of the great state of Massachusetts. So want to welcome him once again. Remind you guys, go ahead, leave a message if there's anything you want to discuss, any sports, any team. We did get a message from John out of, can't read, something happened with his computer, but out of Massachusetts. Yes, Massachusetts, wanting to know, somehow football came up, but I'll answer the question. If I think the New England Patriots can go ahead and contend again next year. And, that division is now wide open. I'll tell you, John, you go ahead and you look. Obviously, the loss of Tom Brady is huge. For 20 years now, the Buffalo Bills, the New York Jets, and the Miami Dolphins have been waiting for the day Tom Brady leaves. Nobody just expected it to go ahead and be this way, where he was traded. Everybody expected Tom Brady to retire as a New England Patriot. It didn't happen. I think the big surprise in New England right now is that they didn't go after a quarterback. Bill Belichick is really, really high on this kid Stidham. Jared Stidham out of, who was the backup last year. And they're very high on him. And he's showing a lot of respect for this kid because he has not gone after a quarterback. Now, one thing you can't take away from the New England Patriots, John, is that you can't take away that great defense. That great defense. They are a great defense. I don't want to take nothing away from Tom Brady. Tom Brady had a great year statistically last year, but that defense is what really did it. And, people say, well, they lost Gronk. They didn't lose Gronk. He wasn't playing. So they gave Gronk away, but Gronk was not playing, and that's a whole nother story we'll talk about another day about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But, the Buffalo Bills are a good team. The New York Jets are getting better, and the Miami Dolphins are getting better. I think right now a lot of people are saying the team to beat right now in the AFC East will be the Buffalo Bills. I'm not sold on the Buffalo Bills, but when you look, at what everyone's saying, they are saying the Buffalo Bills. I don't think you can ever rule out a Bill Belichick team. The guy is a genius. As long as you have Bill Belichick as your coach, John, you have a chance to win. But to answer your question, I don't see them going to the Super Bowl. No, I do not. But I do see that team still competing in the AFC East. And remember something. They do have something going for them, the New England Patriots, besides having Bill Belichick. They are in the AFC East. The Dolphins are not a great team, although they're getting better. You have the New York Jets, who I'm going to tell you right now, people are saying that Sam Darnold is the best quarterback right now in the AFC East since Tom Brady has left. I'm not 100% sold on Sam Darnold. And here's a guy who's rooted for the Jets. He's been a big Jets fan before I moved down to Tampa Bay for 35 years, and I still pulled for the New York Jets. And I'm not sold on Sam Darnold. I think the Jets have a much improved team, but I think Sam Darnold is his own worst enemy. And, he is not. I think Josh Allen, you'd have to say right now, is the best quarterback in that league. And I think that's why a lot of people are giving the Buffalo Bills a big chance to win that division. But to answer your question, when you're in the AFC East right now, as weak as that division is, everybody right now, the only thing different this year than last year is that there was no question last year who was going to win that division. This year, there's a question, but that same team, the New England Patriots, still can compete for that division. So I hope that answers your question, John. Want to remind everybody else, we have several different platforms you can listen to us on. We have a YouTube channel. Obviously, everybody knows we have a Facebook channel. We put a lot of news, a lot of updated information on that page. If you have friends, go ahead and have them join. This is a live show tonight. This is one of the few live shows that we do. We are talking about doing these shows in the future live so that we can get more fan involvement. We always have a guest, and we had a guest tonight. So if you did not get to listen to Brandon Kravitz after this show is over, go ahead and do so. We also want to welcome Joanna, a big New York Mets fan, on the line with us as well. Known Joanna for a little while. Thanks for joining the show. And let Joanna also know that if you didn't listen to our podcast on Monday, Joanna, we did have a gentleman that covers the New York Mets on the show with us. So go back and listen to that podcast. I think you'll really enjoy that. Other than that, folks, looking forward to the season to start. We're looking forward to basketball. Thank goodness somebody had enough brains somewhere in one of these professional sports to go ahead and open things up. I am so proud of Adam Silver for the job he's doing, Gary Bettman in the NHL, and Roger Goodell. And I don't want to talk now about Robert Manfred. I've talked many times about the lack of leadership that gentleman does have. We have college football starting back up this Monday once again. So a lot of great things happening in the world of sports as we try to get back from normalcy. We're going to take a quick break, and then when we come back, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up, see if we have any more questions. So while we take this break, if you're on the line listening to us, you have any questions, go ahead and leave a quick comment where it says write something. If you're on Facebook Live, go ahead and leave a message, and we will answer that question when we come back from this quick break to allow our stations to identify themselves. We'll be right back. You are watching Frankly Speaking Sports on the Frankly Speaking Sports Network. Want to remind you all that if you have any different way of listening to us, from Facebook to YouTube to Twitter, we have many different channels. We have a YouTube channel. It's called Frankly Speaking Sports. You go to the YouTube channel, you subscribe, and you automatically become a member. And guess what? It's free. That's right. It's free. Or, everybody thinks the word subscribe, it means you got to pay for something. Not with Frankly Speaking Sports. You go to YouTube, and the great thing about YouTube is when we do these audio shows, if you have a new smart TV, you can go to YouTube on your TV, sit on your couch, open up a nice cold beer, and you could listen to our audio while you're sitting on your couch. You go to you go to YouTube, you go ahead and pull up Frankly Speaking Sports. It'll show you which one of our shows, all of our interviews. Tap on the one, sit on your couch, and listen to the show. How more relaxing can that be? Then we also have Twitter account, @LarryFrankus. Folks, if you have a Twitter account, please go ahead and follow us @LarryFrankus. We do a lot of retweeting on Twitter. A lot of our insiders, a lot of people that give me the most updated and quickest news are people that I utilize on Twitter. So go ahead and follow us there. Then again, as a lot of people on our show tonight, our great Facebook group page, we've been in, and I want to apologize for those of you that tried listening earlier in the week. We've been in, I guess they call it Facebook jail. For some reason, somebody complained that we were getting good too quickly, and I guess another person from another group got kind of a little bit jealous, and they finally figured that out. So hopefully we're through that, and we won't have to deal with that jealousy anymore. We accommodate everyone here. We want as many members as possible. If you have friends, pets, whatever you have, they got a paw, they can hit join. Go ahead, join our show, and we'll be more than happy to have you a member of our Facebook group. Welcome back to Frankly Speaking Sports. What a great show tonight. I really enjoyed doing this live show tonight. You know, like I said, a lot of our shows that we do, we go ahead and we do them in the morning so that they are done live, but they're pre-recorded. I wanted to open it up tonight because I wanted to get some fan involvement and some listener involvement. And we're talking about doing these shows more live on the live version of it rather than doing the shows in the morning and pre-recording it. So I want to take the time right now to thank all of you for making Frankly Speaking Sports one of the fastest growing podcasts around. You know, we try real hard. We hope that we do it on a platform that you are really enjoying. And I know you've done wonder. Our listeners are the reason why we are here. So once again, I want to thank you very much. Want to remind you that we will be back Monday, same time, same place, with another edition of Frankly Speaking Sports. Everybody have a great weekend.